What's going on, guys? This is Mikeinoid, and today I'll be reviewing the Nixie Wizard controller. The GameCube controller is honestly one of my favorite controllers of all time. It's not only nostalgic, but very ergonomic. It still amazes me how the controller before the GameCube was this thing. Now, the GameCube was released over 20 years ago, and every Nintendo console since refuses to drop that iconic controller, thanks to backwards compatibility or peripherals that let you still use this controller. In my opinion, I feel like Nintendo's controller quality has certainly dropped since. Nintendo's Joy-Cons do have their flaws. They're not that comfortable, the buttons are tiny, and they have quality issues as most Joy-Cons are prone to develop stick drift. So what if Joy-Cons were, actually good? What if Joy-Cons were more like a GameCube controller? If only we can just split a GameCube controller in half. Oh, it worked! Nixie sent me their interpretation of GameCube Joy-Cons. This is called the Wizard Wireless Joypad. Looking more at it, it certainly is more of a modern day Wavebird controller. This controller works with every Switch system. That includes your Switch Lite and OLED models. I wasn't expecting much from the packaging, but this is some really nice presentation. The picture of the controller is all glossy, and the back of the box tells you all the features that this controller includes. The first feature on here is that this controller will never develop drift in its lifetime. Oh man, this controller means business. You got interchangeable joystick rings, extra triggers on the back, instant triggers that have less resistance and shorter trigger distances. You have that classic NYXI button layout that lights up. I did not know that when I first saw this controller. You also have turbo for each side of the controller. You still have gyro controls, you still have rumble, and of course you are able to use this as a normal wireless controller or attach this to your Switch or OLED model and play in handheld mode. Start with gamers, stay with gamers. Yes sir! I know I already said this, but the presentation is just immaculate. Before we look at the Wizard, I'm gonna check out everything else that's included. You get the manual that tells you what all the buttons are, how to program the extra back triggers and the turbo buttons, and how to swap out the joystick rings. Inside the pack accessories compartment, you get a USB-C cable and the second set of joystick rings, which I'll show off later. And finally, we get to the Wizard itself, and I'll tell you right now, this is a great looking controller. It's not a heavy controller or too light. The texture is very smooth, so overall it does feel really nice to hold. Unlike a GameCube controller, both thumbsticks are identical. They're almost like Xbox One and Series X controllers, so they feel pretty good. You got your D-pad, which is actually bigger than an actual GameCube D-pad. The triggers and shoulder buttons are nice and clicky. The extra triggers, FL and FR, are flushed into the controller so you don't accidentally press them when playing. Each Joy-Con has their turbo buttons. They have profile buttons, which allow you to map those FL and FR triggers. You got the home button and screenshot button and two indicator lights on each Joy-Con. These tell you whether or not the turbo and extra triggers have been mapped. On the bottom, you'll see that each Joy-Con has USB-C ports. This just gives you an extra option of charging, since you can also charge the Wizard just by having them connected to your Switch, just like regular Joy-Cons. You only get one USB-C cable with this, so you'll need to go find another one if you want to charge both at the same time, but you'll get over 8 hours of playtime, and it will only take 2.5 hours to charge, so it's not a big issue. Detaching them from their grip is easy thanks to the detach buttons. Nixie calls this a bridge since there's nothing to grip here. It's just a piece of plastic that keeps the two Joy-Cons together. It's super tiny compared to the official Joy-Con grip, so the bridge is much easier to store when it's not being used. You don't even need the bridge, these work just fine separately. It doesn't feel as comfortable compared to them put together, but you can do it. Just like official Joy-Con controllers, these also have a sync button to connect these wirelessly, and SL and SR buttons, so you can technically use these controllers on their side, but I say you have to be insane to use them like this, but it's cool that you can do it. And here's me connecting these bad boys to my OLED to make the Nintendo Switch GameCube edition with funky mode. Attaching them will automatically connect them to your Switch, so it's super easy to set up. And honestly, just the sight of this just makes me think of Green Goblin's glider. It just looks really bizarre when you just like sit and look at it, but it's still kind of cool. Your hands are further apart, so it feels weird when you're just holding it, but when you're in the heat of a game, it actually just feels natural. The A, B, X, Y buttons light up during use, which is a nice touch. Thankfully, the lights do turn off after a few seconds when the system is off, and you can actually adjust the brightness or turn off the lights entirely. So this controller does give you options, and I think that's pretty cool. One thing that I was actually worried about before getting the Wizard was if I can still plug in my Switch in the dock, and thankfully it does. As you can see, the joystick rings are similar to a GameCube controller, which would be great for a game like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but might not be great for a different game. Thankfully, you can switch these out with the circular rings that were provided. You just need to twist the ring with your fingernails, pull out the joystick, place the joystick back, snap on the new ring, and twist it back. It was a little scary at first, especially when you start to see the insides of the controller, but it was an easy process and it took less than a minute. Based on everything that the Wizard has to offer, I say that this is a damn good controller. However, you do have some minor drawbacks with it. If you have these connected to your Switch, then most likely the case you use to transport your console will become too small. NYXI does offer a case specifically for the Wizard and their other controllers, but that would be an additional purchase. The Wizard also doesn't have NFC support for amiibos, which in my opinion isn't a huge downgrade since I rarely use amiibos anyways, but it's just something you should know before throwing away your Joy-Cons for this controller. So just based on first impressions, I say that the NYXI Wizard controller is really good. So far, I've used this controller mainly for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I feel like those games would be the #1 reason to buy this controller, which may not seem like a lot of incentive, but those games have a lot of playability, which will eventually lead to you experiencing drifty Joy-Cons. I also see this controller being popular to use with Super Mario Sunshine from 3D All-Stars and the fairly recent Metroid Prime Remastered. I think this controller does really well with mimicking a classic GameCube and Wavebird controller while still giving it those modern additions to make it a high quality option. Since the Wizard is a high quality accessory, you are looking at $69.99 US, but a regular set of Joy-Cons are $80 and don't have a great track record of lasting very long, so I think you're better off getting with what you pay for with the Wizard. If you are interested in buying this controller, I will leave a link to the product page where you can use the discount code Mikeinoid to get 10% off your purchase. Alright, I highly recommend picking this up for anyone who's a fan of the GameCube and Wavebird controllers. I'm really glad I got my hands on one, and I feel like this controller will be highly sought after when the Switch has been retired and we've moved on to Nintendo's next hardware. You know, eventually. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know if you guys have any questions about the Wizard controller down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Now it's time to beat y'all in some Mario Kart. Come on in.